Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Me and my friends, my name is Muhammad Asyraf bin Saipol Anwar, Ammar Hazeeq bin Ahmad Kamal, Nuralim Haziq bin Abdul Halim, wants to present about the assignment that we've been research of one of the fraud case, which is the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy. So next, we go to the first question. So for the first question, the explanation of the tone at the top is the level of commitment by management and the board of directors to creating an open, honest and ethical corporate culture. So this is explained which is the top level management of a company act in this way of a business behave, which is the mid-level manager and the employees below them are more likely to exhibit the same behavior. So this summary will explain about in summary, the employees pay great attention to their leader conduct and will often to try imitate them. So for the question 1B, to describe the tone at the top of our target company. So it's based on the case study, which is the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers, where the executive accused of gross negligence in their duty of disclosure. And it showed that an ethical action were exposed that were either carried out directly by top executive or were supervised by them. There is a lot of people blame accounting rules and procedure for portraying financial statement as something other than what they are and what management want them to be in this case study. So this is because the rumors of a bankruptcy and financial difficulty that US bank went through in 2018, including the event that analyzed failed to predict and uncovered errors in financial analysis procedure. So next, we go to the question 2.
Okay, my name is Nuralim Haziq and I will present about question 2. In question 2, there are two questions they ask, which is the first one is how the fraud was compared and concealed, and then who is the whistleblower for this case. So for the first question, let's go to introduction of Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers was founded in 1844 by Henry Lehman, which is a German immigrant, and then in 1850, his brother Mayer and Emmanuel Lehman joined him and formed the Lehman Brothers. Actually, they start as a dry goods store and a general store, which is Lehman Brothers back then. In the 1850s, Lehman Brothers became a big commodity trading company. They focus on critical cotton market. During the 86, they joined Goldman Sachs, which is they dealing in commodities to investment banking. In the mid of 2000s, Lehman Brothers has put significant money to invest in mortgage-backed security, which is called MBS. So people made many mortgage-backed security and collateral debt obligation during the house boom. So in the 2007, Lehman can say that Lehman have a most mortgage-backed security in their portfolio. So for your information, subprime loan are very risky and thrown together that they took over the market in the 2007 and 2008. During the 2006, market crash began in that year, which is it is a first stage of the market crash. When the housing market dropped, the number of people who default on their mortgage loan went up a lot. So people cannot keep up with the huge number of subprime mortgage that has been made. Even though the housing market is fall during that year, Lehman Brothers keep on putting more money in the housing market and mortgage. They has bought a lot of real estate, and even after they bought, the market still going down. in 2007, they got more than 100 billion worth of mortgage-backed security and asset from the government. Because of Lehman Brothers has invest a lot of money in the mortgage-backed security, then the company and because they have invest more, and by that time the market crashed, so they have bankrupt. So in the business, they have a bad accounting practice that they be used by their management to achieve their goals. For your information, Lehman Brothers use a presentation called window dressing to help their financial statement. The function of window dressing is to show a picture of the company. Let's say if eventually the company have big losses, but with window dressing, their financial statement still have a lot of profit. They are doing this because they want to show their investor how good their company is, but actually they are having loss. So for the next slide, we go to who is the whistleblower for this case. So the whistleblower for this case is called Matthew Lee. Matthew Lee actually is a employee at Lehman Brothers. He has found the teamwork that made by the management of Lehman Brothers, and he think he has a right to report this fraud to their authorities. First of all, Matthew Lee have told their Lehman Brothers auditor, which is Ernst and Young, that about this fraud. But after Matthew Lee has disclosed this fraud to public, then he suddenly was fired. Then after he was fired, later then Lehman Brothers go to bankrupt. Lee thinks that he has right to do that because he felt that he do not have anyone to let his to speak the truth. So in this case, the transaction has caught his eyes, which is the main thing, which is the Repo 105. Repo 105 is a short-term deals to buy back stock. When Lee told their Lehman and Lehman Brothers auditor, the Lehman Brothers auditor, which is Ernst and Young, told that there has nothing to do with the situation. So because that he lost his job, and suddenly there has some obligation with the United States, and then the company go to bankrupt. Okay, that's all for question 2. Next.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ammar Hazeeq bin Ahmad Kamal, and I want to talk about the question 3, which is what is the pressure, opportunities, and rationalization in the Lehman Brothers scandals. Okay. Now I want to talk about the fraud. Fraud is defined as the mispresentation of intent, facts, or motive to persuade another person to act in a way that harms the party. Okay, in the fraud, we have a fraud triangle model, like as we say, which is opportunity, pressure, and rationalization. This is created by the Donald are crazy, which is criminologist. Okay, for opportunities or and pressure, this can be influence and organization impact on employees. Management and the business environment have a direct effect on the two factors. The lack of security and control within the firm can create opportunities. Demand for better earning in the organization, for example, might put pressure on the employees. And for the rationalization is a physiological phenomenon that occurs within an individual. The individual conducting the fraud assert themselves that it is appropriate to be doing so by the rationalizing the fraudulent activity. Okay. Now I want to talk about the motivation or pressure in the brother Lehman case. Okay. According to the crazy in 1953, individual commit fraud because of the unshareable pecuniary pressure. The financial strain that a person does not intend to share with others is known as a non-shareable financial pressure. The lack of the individual to convey their financial distress motivate them to break the law to remedy the situation, which financial and non-financial factors are broadly characterized in the composition of the pressure to conduct occupational fraud. Non-financial forces are further divided into the work-related pressure, such as a drug-related pressure, and the pressure connected with people who want or wish to make a declaration by living a luxurious life. Financial success, defined as the significant acquisition of millions of dollars via own efforts, is managed for pursuing success by any means necessary, plus deception. Many offenders commit fraud due to the financial stress, such as a failed occupation or stock exchange investment. Financial constraints arise when the company fails to fulfill Wall Street's expectation. Financial pressure can also occur due to the company failure to compete with another company in an identical industry. Executive must provide monetary incentive in compensation bonuses to boost the company financial performance under the purviews. Executives are enticed to distort financial statement by stimuli paired with the economic interest in investor relations, which is keeping the stock price high and maintaining investor trust. Okay, from the case, we can learn that the motivation of Lehman Brothers is pressure that they wanted to achieve. First is achieve their expansion strategy. Second is to attract new investment. Third, to perform well on the Wall Street, and lastly, to cope with their misjudgment investment decision related to subprime mortgage. So, the company decide to use unacceptable accounting practice such as window dressing, Repo 105 and Repo 108 to discuss its financial health and credit worthiness. Okay. For the opportunity, when they are in a situation of trespasses on the assurance to address unshareable monetary pressure, a perceived opportunity to conduct fraud occurs. An opportunity has been studied in the accounting literature in the factor of fragile internal controls, which are a vital component attribute to the three key, according to KPMG. KPMG is the one of the audit firm that control the fraud case. Okay, an opportunity to get up when someone has the knowledge and skills that enable the fraudster to commit the fraud and hide it. As organization control witness the structure, its business management become reduced operational, and the standard of the audit activity degenerates, the risk of fraud grows. Other side criminological literature to explain the risk of fraud, according to Colvin, 2002, criminal behavior necessitates societal backing and coercion. Individuals who cannot acquire social aid from legitimate source may seek assistance from illegal authorities. People who have learned to deceive others to obtain social help and in the process grow a deep calculative relationship that intermediately intense will be more likely to approach a criminal opportunity with calculating spirit, which is in the lack of public support will be more likely to approach a lawbreaker opportunity with a numerical spirit. Okay, the potential was examined by the two brothers, which is Donegan and Denner, from the perspective of semi-triangulation. They also claim that the potential to commit fraud is provided by a subculture that by its action either discourage or encourage fraudulent behavior. In this case, we also know that Lehman Brothers commit fraud by exploiting a vulnerability in government accounting standards. They use the Glass-Steagall Act, for example, to conduct unethical mergers. Second, they manipulate the company complex structure, such as ineffective management, distinct role between external auditor and internal business finance department, and the adoption of Repo 105, all of which have an impact of the balance sheet and have resulted in the removal of $15 billion in the commitment from their financial statement. Okay. Lastly, I want to talk about the rationalization. Okay, rationalization is a form of deception. The term from the rationalization is referred to a person rationale from defrauding others. Job discontent or a sense of entitlement can also be source of justification. For example, the employee may believe that the company underpays him. The process of rationalization is so simple for those who low moral standards. Those with the higher ethical standards, on the other hand, may find it more difficult to persuade themselves that fraud is unacceptable by inventing explanation in their imagination. The concept of the rationalization, which is the explanation of dishonest action with rational argument, was used in the cases. The deception is conducted to increase ultimate return to equity shareholder due to the failure to meet liquidity requirement and the loss of market confidence. That's all from me. Thank you.
Alright, we can continue with the question 4, which is from me, Muhammad Asyraf for Anwar. So for the question 4A, we have for the question 4, we have a lot of effect for on this case study, which is the first one is the auditor, and the second one is company, and the third one management, shareholder, and any relevant party. Okay, so for the first one is the effect for the auditor in this case study is where the Ernst & Young LLP will pay 10 million to resolve a lawsuit filed in New York, alleging that the accounting company assists Lehman Brothers Holding. So it is receiving an investor in the years running up to its 2008 collapse, which the lawsuit filed in 2010 that claimed that Ernst & Young auditing at a massive accounting fraud and seek a lot of money, which is 150 million in fees from Lehman between 2001 and 2008, and it as well as investor damage and equitable relief. So in a class action settlement reached a year ago, Ernst & Young agreed to pay 99 million in damage to investor, which was far less than the Attorney General Office that had demand, and the case was the last significant lawsuit against Ernst & Young over Lehman. So we go for the question 4B, which is the effect for the company. So the effect of company in this case study is on March 12, which is 2010. The investigation report compiled by a legal expert, which is from Anton R. Valukas, which uncover widespread accounting practices that may have assisted in the collapse of Lehman Brothers. This investigation failed for the bankruptcy on September 15, which is on the 2008, and the systematic use of a balance sheet window dressing technique known as a Repo 105, which allow Lehman to remove 50 billion in commitments from its balance sheet in June 2008 and artificially is reduced its net debt level by betting on the collateralized loan market, which is detailed in this report. Okay, so we go to the question 4C, the effect of management for this case study, which is Lehman Brothers employ a large number of people throughout the world, and over the 25,000 Lehman Brothers employees were laid off as a result of the firm bankruptcy. So this worker had a significant interest in the firm stock. So the firm stock is a price plummeted to an all-time low and putting its investment in jeopardy. So the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers tore its creditor and investor apart. And the BNY Institutional Cash Reserve Fund, which is established trust run by a bank of New York Mellon Corp. And there was another investor who experienced a similar fate, and it mortgaged a financial federal home loan mortgage corporation, which is Freddie Mac, that state that Lehman Brothers failure had a big impact on it. And we go to the question 4D, the effect of the shareholder in this case is the failure of the Lehman Brothers sent financial market into a tailspin, which is the Dow Jones Industrial average drop 504.48 points, and that is the most record that drop in 7 years. So the Dow was down until March 5 on 2009 when it closed to at 6,594.44, and it had fallen by 53% since its top of 14,164.53 on October 10, which on the 2007. The investor flocked to the relatively secure haven of a US Treasury bond, driving up prices, and the investor were also aware that Lehman bankruptcy posed a threat to the financial institution who held the company bonds. And we go to the last question for E, the effect of any relevant parties, which is in this case is when Lehman Brothers went under, went down. It showed that a lot of business in the US and around the world were having problems. So this showed that the commercial real estate prices went down. 70% of 48 billion worth of receivable from derivative were cancelled, and in also 46 billion of its value was wiped out. So the hedge market didn't grow because more than 1,000 hedge funds use Lehman as their main broker and rely mostly on the company for the money. Freddie Mac had a 400 million debt to Lehman because of single-family home loans, and the Lehman debt that also led to the rise of 48 million in debt owed to the Federal Agriculture Corporation, which is known as a farmer mark. And in September of that year, which is 2008, and on the New York Stock Exchange also have a Constellation Energy stock was also said to have a drop by 56%. This led to Mid-American Energy buying it out, and the international community was not completely free from the bad effect of the Lehman failure. So the bank and insurance in Japan say that they could lose 249 billion, which is 249 billion yen, or we can say it as a 2.4 billion. And a lawyer from the Royal Bank of Scotland Group is said to be facing claim of between 1.5 billion and 1.8 billion for an unsecured guarantee from Lehman Brothers. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, for question 5, we asked for conclusion about the report. So based on this Lehman Brothers situation, we can conclude that there are many questionable accounting practice that could not be practiced in the long run if top manager have a low moral standard. Bad accounting practice took it out of context to make investor and lender happy. When shareholder put their trust in Lehman Brothers, it's already complicate the structure and also give them a chance to abuse the trust. In this case, they are also said that the Sarbanes-Oxley Act was broken because top manager tampered with the financial statement just to make it look better than they actually were. As soon as the manager could not meet their growth and expectation goal, they had to inflate their financial statement to look like a company with a higher rate of growth and expectation. So for Lehman Brothers, the mistake you can say there are too much faith in action culture and not see how its strength hurt the business. So from Lehman Brothers, we can learn a lesson that every company need to have a confidence before they want to change their culture, which is like their accounting principle. They need to learn more about their nature of business when they are doing before when they are doing uh, more research before they want to change their accounting principle. It can be tough to change if it is solid and well established. So lastly, auditor did notice that the cash flow statement didn't match the balance sheet and the income statement, which means the company was in trouble. Auditor didn't see that the company net negative cash flow statement reflect it is financial health because they are ignored by the auditor. Here we can see that another conclusion that was made by reading from this research. Okay, that's all from me.
Okay, from the question last, as you can see, the wisdom of from the case that I attract to say is how credit is the lifeblood for the company. We all know that economy lifeblood is instant from the Lehman Brothers case. The economic consequence of allowing one American investment bank to fail resonated around the globe. The credit markets got paralyzed as everyone waited to see who will be the next to go bankrupt. Not only did the economies of the United States collapse, but the magnitude of the collapse was unprecedented. We know we now know that the economies contracted rapidly after years of the data modification and study. Thanks to the central bank who tasked with devising the appropriate course of action for towing the credit market's deep freeze. Even though it has melted, there is still a harsh frost in the air, and year later, the credit markets are still far from average. Okay, one more wisdom, which is from the Lehman Brothers case is we always repeating the mistake and never learn it because leverage short-term borrowing to cover long-term loans. That's Australia Bank credit standstill, which is the one of the oldest and largest, went bankrupt in 1931. It encountered a liquidity issue similar to the Lehman Brothers case or scandals when overseas lenders ceased lending to it. At the same time, Lazard became the first British bank to fail after a Roger trader made an illegal and big gamble that went awry. Bank failure in the present crisis are very similar. The funding and liquidity crisis at the RBS and the JP Morgan, which is a $6 billion, well, like loss are early identical to scenarios described above. These are the only parallels to be found. Hundreds of cases of the same behavior in the financial business have been documented throughout history. The fact that the human race, which is or at least the part of it that's working in banking, cannot learn from the history is a truly dismal concept. That's all from us, and thank you for willing to hear about the Lehman Brothers case.
Thank you.